Hello everyone, my name is Nick and I've been playing around with this idea of starting up an Ironman account. It's a terrifying decision for a number of reasons. Outside of taking on the restrictive playstyle, I also had to do all the quests over again, train back up all my skills, get all the gear back, and do so much more. But even with that in mind, I'm still really considering creating this account and taking the game on with these Ironman restrictions. Restrictions I'm not personally super familiar with since I play almost exclusively a main account. So I decided to make this video listing all the main aspects of the challenge mode and break down all my thoughts surrounding them. By doing so, I hopefully can find both good and bad in each topic point, so if anyone else is out there in the same boat as me, hopefully we can kind of make a decision together or at least get some really cool feedback from you guys that have a ton more experience in this. Sound good? Awesome, let's jump into things. Let's make this list section of the video as quick as possible because odds are you know the whole point of Ironman game mode, which basically boils down to you doing everything alone. Trading of all kind is restricted outside of certain quests and bonds. All drops from other player kills are not rewarded to you. If you're killing dust devils in the catacombs and another player comes up to you and whacks one or takes a hit from one, you're not going to get any loot there. Drops gained by PvP are not received, so killing bots in the wildy for easy loot is not an option. No accept aid, no entering other people's POHs, overstocked items in shops cannot be bought, balloon party drops in Falador are off limits, and some group activities are restricted. You get the idea. We are going to be doing everything solo in this game mode, or at least that's the mindset you kind of had to adopt when taking on any challenge here. And as an added bonus, if I start an Ironman account, I might as well do it with hardcore. So on top of all the other restrictions, I'm going to try my best not to die. So this is the list that sets Ironman apart from everyone else. And I think the best way to tackle this list is to start from the bottom and work our way to the top. A big point that needs to be made real quick is almost everything I talk about in here is going to be my opinion. I know that statement is kind of lame, especially coming from someone who tries to just find facts about each choice before making a decision, and saying everything is going to be left up to your opinion kind of makes this decision a lot harder to make. But it is really important to note that if I personally don't like something, making that a con in my book doesn't mean it's a con for you. For example, one of the main reasons I dread the idea of ever making a new account or playing leagues or some other seasonal event is the idea of starting the quest grind all over again is just, it does not sound fun. So while I may put that down as a con for starting a new Ironman account, you may personally love questing and look forward to doing the new quest that comes out, every month at this point. So keep that in mind when I go over all these talking points as they're going to be subject to your own opinion. With that out of the way, let's talk about the dying aspect of Ironman mode when you consider hardcore status. The hardcore factor to Ironman mode can pretty much make or break you. This little icon is the only reason your account will show up in the high scores for the hardcore Ironman, and it puts a lot of pressure on you to play that game mode safely. This can be achieved in a number of ways, like simply never doing the bosses that could put you in danger, or simply just train your skills in a lot safer of a way. There's nothing stopping you from reaching max combat stats at the sand crabs while reaching max skilling levels on the side. Personally though, I'm gonna try my best not to stress about the hardcore status too much. Sure, I am going to keep my status as long as possible, but I know things happen. So unless I die within the first week or first couple of weeks of playing, odds are I won't be restarting a new account. The dream, of course, is to get the Infernal Cape with the T-bow and Masori armor equipped while still holding on to that hardcore status, but if you've watched any other video by me, you know that I die quite often. So thankfully, I don't think I'll stress about this aspect of the game mode a whole lot, but that doesn't mean that you won't. Hardcore death is a real fear. It doesn't take much digging to hear others in the space talk about the nightmares they've had about dying on their account or constantly checking their computer to make sure they are indeed logged out when they go make food or something. I will try my best not to care too much and not hinder me from doing any activities, but only time is going to tell with this one. The next rule that we're going to cover is the restriction from group activities in Nightmare Zone and the resource rewards from the reward chest. Honestly, this is not a big deal to me at all. I truthfully can't remember if I ever did group activities in Nightmare Zone, so I guess I won't be missing this feature when the time comes to do it on the Ironman account. Actually, when I take a look at the next few items on the restriction list, none of these really bother me in the slightest. With the spirit of the game to do everything alone, drop parties make sense that they just don't work. No accept aid isn't really a big deal either, as the only time I've ever really used it was way back in the day when I would do group bandos trips, when solo options like freezing or the range method didn't really exist. The whole PvP option change doesn't change a single thing for me too, as aside from smacking random bosses and res caves just to get them off, I don't think I've ever attempted to PK someone. And if I did, I really wouldn't like the boost of items that it would probably give me if I'm on my Ironman account. The only one in this list of groups that really does kind of suck is not entering other people's POHs. This is more of an issue when construction is low, but it will be fixed when I get into the higher levels. Grinds like getting 99 prayer have really changed a lot from when I was grinding it. Back in my day, the best way to train it was to go to Brimhaven and swap my Note of Bones out and enter into someone else's POH where they had a lit altar going. But today, we have the Chaos Altar, Reanimating Ensouled Hez, and with the release of Olimar, we have the Libation Bowl? I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but either way, it's a new way to sacrifice blessed bone shards for prayer XP. Something that's obviously very new and honestly isn't a horrible process to get done either. The point is, there's a ton of ways to get prayer XP aside from the old method. It may be slower, maybe more tedious, maybe a little bit more dangerous, but nothing compared to the big restrictions this game mode forces you to take on. And the two big ones are, of course, the trading is restricted outside of certain quests and bonds, and drops from other players' kills are not rewarded to you. Starting with the lesser of two evils, the restriction from receiving other drops from players' kills is going to be annoying to get over. While I personally have not seen a lot of Ironman crashing, I know it's still a thing. Crashing of any kind sucks regardless of which account you're playing, but it hurts even more when it's an Ironman. A simple smack on a monster can make that entire stack not give you loot after all. But realistically, I think I would only run into this problem more when I'm doing Slayer. Some tasks are just incredibly popular, and if you're able to set up a cannon in that area, then chances are someone's going to tag something that you're trying to kill more often than I realize. However, this restriction doesn't really seem to be a game changer to me. While the cannons will be annoying to get over, or someone coming by and tagging something and just getting me off of the stack, the main reason I think this rule is set is mainly due to the idea of not having alts out there to help you out, or a buddy or a clan or whatever you have going on for you. The goal of this game mode is of course to do everything alone, and I don't want my main account or a buddy being a tank for a challenge, nor would I want it to do 49% of the damage on a monster so I can just come in on my Iron Man and snipe the rewards. This is, after all, the entire idea of the game mode, and it just takes that idea and forces it on you. Now we get into the really big one, the no trading rule. Without a doubt, this rule forces so many things onto the player, it's hard not to just sit here and make a 30-minute video just on this topic alone. From big things like not being able to buy Torva, forcing you to go to the icy hellscape known as Next, to smaller things like getting food. Not being able to trade impacts so many aspects of the game, it's honestly insane. For some players, the game becomes a game of chores, and I'm going to try my best to never look at that game mode in that way, but you will always have to remember to do your farm runs, because if you don't, you won't be able to make potions without them, and don't forget your throne, because bird's nests aren't exactly a fast secondary to get. If you're running low on food, well then you have to go fish them up, and then you have to cook them. Hopefully you have the levels for both tasks, and you don't burn too many of them. From gathering your own snape grass next to the hobgoblins to traveling to distant lands for gold leaves on your new POH build, Ironman are truly defined by this one rule. Yes, the other restrictions make the game mode harder, but not being able to bypass really grindy parts of the game by simply camping Vorkath for a week is going to be a hard pill to swallow. So to make this section not a massive downside, let's talk about how this can be potentially sold to you as somewhat of a good thing. Or at least this is the lie that I'm telling myself to get me to actually make this account. Due to not being able to buy everything, this rule forces the player to stay in their lane, so to speak. There is no grind, challenge, or luxury you can just skip to completing or having. The first thing that comes to mind is stamina potions. I burn through these things like it's my job whenever I have a quest or a boss that requires them. But do you know what goes into making these things? First, you have to get a super energy potion, which requires an Avitoad and Mortbire fungus and 52 herb, none of which is a fun task to go get out in large quantities. Once you do that, you have to go get Amethyst crystals. Probably saying that wrong, but you get the idea. You're either going to have to get 10 Marks of Grace or 60 Brimhaven vouchers. And of course, once you get the crystals, you have to have 77 herb to actually make the stamina potions. These potions cost right around 10k to buy on the GE. It may be a little pricey, but nothing a new account can't handle in just a couple hours of playtime. These potions make life so much easier, especially in the early game. Like, when's the last time you walked around in areas in RuneScape? It's pretty brutal. Another skip in luxury is higher healing food and the ease of getting it. Monkfish, sharks, and new meat from Hunter Rumors. Food is rather cheap in this game, and I usually try to stock up on really large quantities whenever I start to run low. But of course for Ironman, that's not really an option. Sharks, for example, require level 76 fishing and 80 cooking if you want to go out and gather it yourself. Aside from actually going out and fishing them, the best buying option that an Ironman has is at Frankie's Fishing Emporium, where you can buy raw sharks from a shop which has a buy limit of 25, and they start at 170 coins, so they get pricey really quick. And then, of course, you still have to cook it. You get the idea of this point. Ironman forces you to stay in your lane of what skills in your time can produce. If you need something better, you have to go out of your way to train up those skills or put more time in a challenge to go get the items that you need. Which is another slight blessing when it comes to Ironman mode if you try to look at it from a different angle. You have to maintain your skills. It did not take long for someone like me on my main account to get stats that were ridiculously high while other skills lacked a lot of love. I remember having like 80s or 90s in melee stats while my farming, hunter, and good lord my runecrafting were well below level 50. Ironman mode kind of makes you keep everything a little bit closer together. Sure, you don't have to train a skill if you don't want to, but your goals may suffer because of that decision. If you don't like farming, well, herb is going to stay rather low, and that means you have no potions for your bossing and PvM goals. If you don't like runecrafting, well, I hope you're doing a lot of challenges that give you a ton of high alts because runes can get rather expensive. You kind of get the trend here. Ironman mode forces you to have some maintenance time if you want to get further into the game's challenges, which to me is a good thing. It does give me a ton of variety, especially into the early to mid-level of the account build. For example, if I want to start Slayer, but I need new armor and I have no money, well, I have to go train mining for a little bit, and then go smith, and then go fish, and then go cook, and then go make potions, and then I can start Slayer. A main account would simply just go buy what they need and go get a Slayer task. It sounds like a ton of work for a simple goal, and I understand that, but it keeps you so busy that it still sounds like a lot of fun to me. However, we are overlooking the big factor that a lot of people are scared of the Ironman life, and it's rightfully so: the massive dry streaks they can face. Let's bring up the well-known Ironman grind that everyone knows and loves, the Dragon Warhammer. While the Project Rebalance wants to change this drop to make it a little bit easier to get, it still right now sits at a 1 in 5k drop from the Lizardmen Shamans. And even after the update, it's still going to be a 1 in 3k drop. If you go the distance on the drop rates, you can spend weeks if not months here chasing that one drop, and that's assuming you have the gear and the supplies in the first place to camp these guys out. The idea of going super dry is never fun to say the least, but there are some benefits to going dry at certain bosses. Shamans, for example, don't have a horrific drop table. You can get some nice high alchs, runes, ores, herbs, a ton of seeds, and fang drops that allows your talisman to teleport you around Zaya. Going dry at a monster is never fun, regardless if you have somewhat decent drops or not, but the point is it's not all bad. Another grind that we can look at is Zulrah. This is a longer mid-ish grinds that Ironman are going to be forced to take on, and the drop table from Zulrah is honestly really amazing for Ironman. And it used to be the meta for Ironman to just rush to this boss as fast as possible and grind it for weeks on end. You have good alchs, stronger runes in large quantities, herbs also noted in large quantities, and man, the resources are pretty nice. And that of course doesn't include Zulrah scales, which you're going to need a few 100,000 of these bad boys if you want to keep your helm, staff, and blowpipe kicking for future grinds. Yes, going dry still sucks, and I dread the idea of camping out a boss for weeks and never getting the drop that I want, but once Ironman do get it, it's theirs forever, and that feeling of getting the drop has to feel so amazing. Which I think is another benefit to this harder lifestyle. Items have more value than you may realize if you only play a main account. The first time you get a rune scimitar on any account is a massive deal, but it's even more rewarding on an Ironman. That drop means the world to them, as the next upgrade has some serious requirements that's going to take a while to get knocked out. And even when they do move on to the Dragon Sim or the Whip, the Rune Scimitar is still a very nice drop because it has a high alch value. All these items kind of follow the same path. What may be seen as a boring drop for main accounts, they have a ton of value for Ironman. From bones to pure essence, gathering something on an Ironman account during your Slayer task means you had to do less of that resource gathering the old-fashioned way. And that doesn't even touch the big factor in all of this, is when you finally get those items you've been hunting for weeks, that item is yours forever. That's a massive pro in my book, since it's a massive accomplishment regardless of what it is. From the Rune Scimitar to Barrow sets to Armadillo, having that always in your bank has to be a wonderful feeling, and I can't imagine it being matched. You may not see it that way, but I think the value and attachment to an item can never really be the same on a main account as compared to an Ironman. The last big bonus to Ironman life with the trading restriction has to be the utilization of everything RuneScape has to offer. Even with a main account that has hundreds of hours and really high levels, there's still so many challenges and minigames that I've never experienced. Simply because I may just have too high of levels to really ever need to go there or stay there for long. Something like Skirius seems like a ton of fun on any account, but for someone with max combat, I don't really want to camp that boss. On a new account, that would be super fun to train stats and get fantastic rewards on the way. On the flip side, it's been years since I've done Barrows because I just don't need to do anything there. Perils Moons is also another place that I went on the main because it looked like a lot of fun, but I mainly went there to play the release lottery idea of getting a new item and see if it's really overpriced. Ironman benefit from all sorts of minigames and other areas of RuneScape that I never would think of. These areas that mains would never go to are starting to get a lot of love as well. The Mage Training Arena is something that Ironman will have to go through at some point. From the Master Wand to Bones to Peaches, or even getting that book or mage set, this area holds a ton of valuable items for Ironman, and it just got a massive quality of life update. While I'm not entirely looking forward to doing the mage training arena, it's something that I haven't spent a lot of time in, and it's something new to me in a game that I've played for years. All of this circles back to the no trading restriction. It forces you to play the game in a way that a main account would never really think of. Now that you can't buy secondaries, you have to learn the best way to get large quantities of them. Never caught a shark before? Well, now it's time to go figure out where those locations are. The list goes on and on. This one rule changes so much in the game that it may be scary and overwhelming, but it sounds so rewarding, at least to me. On top of the accomplishments that you achieve when playing this game mode, your knowledge of the game also greatly improves, which is something this player is really looking forward to learning. All that to say is, yeah, I'm pretty convinced that I'm going to start up an Ironman as soon as the last item on the Getting Good at RuneScape series is finally received. While getting that item won't mark the end of the series, the goal after getting that last item is going to be maxing out the account. And I might as well take up the challenge of Hardcore Ironman mode while I sit and cut more redwoods on the side. So let me know what you think. Did this video help you decide if Ironman mode is right for you? Did I miss any major points? Please let me know down in the comments. I always love having conversations with you guys in the comments, so let me know what you think. But that's all that I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really does mean the world to me. But until we see each other again, I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. Good luck on your grinds and your personal goals, and I hope to see you again very soon. Stay inspired.